the Troodos Mountains are where Macarius III grew up. Above Kukos Monastery there is a path that leads to his mausoleum. Along the way, the trees and bushes are festooned with ribbons that visitors have tied to them in his honor, conveying their respect and their hopes for the future. The mausoleum of the former Archbishop and the first President of the Republic of Cyprus is an unpretentious memorial. 2 soldiers stand guard over it day and night. Below this promontory, surrounded by majestic mountains, lies the village of Panagia, the birthplace of Macarius III. Michalis Muskos became Archbishop Macarius III in 1950 at the age of 37. His home, now a museum, is a traditional house that radiates warmth and modesty, but the story of Cyprus which it tells is one of blood spilled in the struggle for freedom. It was in 1954, when the island was still part of the British Empire, that Macarius first brought the Cyprus problem before the United Nations. Greek Cypriots were fighting against the British for enosis, unification with Greece. Turkish Cypriots were using violent means to try to achieve partition of the island. On the 16th of August 1960, the Republic was finally declared. But the peace was to be short-lived. Under the watchful eye of the British, Turkish troops occupied the northern part of the Republic on the 20th of July 1974, and the saga of the occupation still goes on, with barbed wire and soldiers still keeping the people of the two communities apart. The Turkish invasion of 1974 created deep wounds. 37% of the island's territory came under Turkish occupation. 180,000 Greek Cypriots, about a third of the population, were forced to flee, leaving all their goods and chattels behind in the occupied territory. More than 70% of the Republic's economic resources were lost. Today, UN soldiers still guard the demarcation line between the southern part of the Republic and the part occupied by Turkey. The excellent climate, with sunshine throughout the whole year, and the good soil on the southern slopes of the Troodos Mountains are ideal for wine growing. Cyprus produces wines of very high quality. But a large proportion of the grapes are not used for winemaking. They're loaded onto refrigerator ships and exported to the central parts of Europe. As early as Minoan and Mycenaean times, people knew how to cultivate the vine. According to legend, it was Icarus who was given the secrets of viticulture and fermentation by Dionysos, the god of wine. A mosaic floor in a Roman villa at Paphos shows Dionysos on the back of a panther, with Icarus bringing him an ox cart laden with wineskins. The accompanying caption describes these two reeling figures as the first men to drink wine. The sweet juice of the grape is also used for making the Cyprus speciality shushuko. Strings of almonds are soaked in the simmering juice, which has been savored with rose water, then, rather like candle making, hung up to dry in the open air. Nuts do not always grow on trees. Peanuts, as their alternative name groundnuts implies, grow beneath the soil like potatoes. The plants make a very practical crop that is grown all over Cyprus and usually brings a good return for the farmers. Banana plantations are found mainly in the southwest of Cyprus, around Paphos. The fruit they produce is mostly sold at local markets. Sheep and goats are still pastured through the hills and valleys of the island. In the days of the ancient myths, Zeus, the father of the gods, was fed milk from the goat Amalthea when he was a little boy. Cyprus's halloumi cheese is distantly related to traditional Arab cheeses. It can be made either from goat's milk or from a mixture of goat, sheep and cow's milk. It's seasoned with mint and matured in whey, and is such a speciality that more than 4,000 tons of it are exported per annum. Mint and salt are added to the milk while it's simmering over an open fire. The thickened mass is spread out and wrapped in cheesecloth, and then it's transferred to a kind of vice, where the whey is squeezed out of it. Finally, the halloumi is taken out again and cut into portions. Grilled halloumi makes a fantastic starter to a meal. The convent of St. Iraklidios, founded in the 15th century, had long been in a state of complete disrepair before it was rebuilt in 1962 at the instigation of Macarius III. It now houses a community of 27 nuns who not only run the convent but also harvest and process a lot of the food that they grow on its land. Walnuts are gathered while they're still unripe and are boiled until they lose their bitterness. Then by boiling them up again in syrup, they're turned into delicious preserved karidaki. The nuns also make quantities of wonderful marzipan from a mixture of ground almonds, sugar and rose water. But the nuns are also worldly enough to make use of modern technology. They use computerized machines to produce high-quality embroidered textiles and raiments. There has been similar recovery on a larger scale. Limassol was a town of just 70,000, and its docks were insignificant at the time when the major port of Famagusta came under Turkish occupation following the 1974 conflict. Now its population has doubled, and it has become an international port, a thriving example of Cyprus's economic miracle. Here and throughout the island, there's now a highly developed infrastructure and an efficient service network, making Cyprus a very good location for European investors. It goes without saying that up-to-date telecommunications and a television service with a wide range of international programs are also part of the modern Cyprus. Although Nicosia is divided in two by barbed wire and sandbags, the way Berlin used to be, the free part has all the aspects of a modern European city. Since 1974, it has succeeded in re-establishing itself, particularly as an international centre of finance. Even in modern banks, an element of tradition is still maintained. It's quite normal to find religious icons alongside computers. The international financial world is also well represented in Nicosia. And despite having a population of only 840,000, 170,000 of whom are in the Turkish-occupied area, Cyprus has transport links with all parts of the world. On the 23rd of April 2003, the Turkish occupation authorities took the world by surprise when for the first time they allowed Greek and Turkish Cypriots to cross the demarcation line and return for a day to the villages where they used to live. Thousands of people spontaneously took the opportunity and made their way across via the Ledra Palace checkpoint in Nicosia, at the time the only UN Green Line crossing point on the island. There were dramatic scenes, with young and old and entire family groups carrying bouquets and candles as they journeyed to their ancestral homes in the Turkish-occupied area, sometimes to be faced with despair. Many of their houses were in ruins, their churches and cemeteries desecrated, or they found strangers, resettled Turkish peasants from Anatolia, living in their homes. Many Turkish Cypriots too took advantage of the temporary visiting concession, but they, for the most part, found their houses untouched. Cyprus television broadcast live coverage from Ledra Palace checkpoint. The returning pilgrims told of their experiences, of their shock, their anger, and their sadness. By now, 3 further crossing points have been established along the demarcation line to accommodate the regular stream of visitors from both sides.